Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Build America podcast, the national construction industry podcast that is capturing and sharing the very latest in people, projects, issues, and trends in the construction industry. I'm Kerry Smith Buck. I'm your host, and I'm also the owner of Construction News and Review magazine. And with us in this episode, we're really looking forward to hearing from Mike Cox, who is the CEO of Crete United. And Crete United is a specialty contractor in an energy efficiency powerhouse that uses in-house mechanical, electrical, and plumbing expertise to improve the communities that it serves. And I really want to welcome you today, Mike Cox, to Build America. We're so glad that you're here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Terrific. And the topic today that we're going to talk about is how important and how interwoven company culture is in safety. And it's a theme that I know I've been hearing about interviewing different experts, subject matter experts. But certainly, when you hear about some of the statistics that exist within Crete United, I think you'll want to hear the backstory on how those numbers are so impressive, where they are so far above the industry average, or below, I should say, and just what's behind that. So, Mike, I would love for you to kick us off and just talk about first about how you build a safety culture and why is it important? It seems obvious to probably a lot of our listeners that it is important. What's the why behind what Crete United believes in as it builds and supports its company culture?
Yeah, again, I think safety, there's a few things that we think about when it comes to safety as a company. One, I firmly believe that safety is a window into a company's culture. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So we don't approach it we have a company culture and a safety culture. We just have one culture. And I think that's a guiding principle. A couple other things that we use as our foundation for how we go forward is safety can never be punitive. I see a lot of companies where people are afraid to do the right thing because they could get fired, things like that. Of course, you have to have rules, but we make safety more of a learning aspect and culture and we're not looking to be punitive on things. And then we always start with the field first. How is what we're doing making the field safer? Are we adding things to them that's making their job harder? And really get the feel and the voice of the local field teams, because that's where the actions happen. We're pretty safe back at the office. And if you let us go out and make up rules, we'll do it. But they're not always the right rules and the right play for the people in the field. So I think when you have the guiding principles of how you want to go build your safety culture, then from there you go and you start to put the pieces and parts together. But not having those foundational pieces, I think people tend to want to take something they downloaded off the internet or something they had from another company and say, this worked. Well, that doesn't mean it will translate to your company. And what worked for them won't work for you. So you have to really ground yourself in what are we trying to achieve? And ultimately, we want every employee to go home the same way they came to work. And safety for us is also mental health. It's not just physical, making sure that our people can look at each other in the eye and they know when someone has a bad day because they know them so well. And they
Right.
saying, today's not the day for you to be on the roof. Today's not the day for you to be managing a lift. You just don't look like you're into it today. Let's take a mental break. So I think there's just a lot of aspects, but it starts with those guiding principles that we laid as the groundwork for our safety program.
Excellent. Excellently said. And I think what you say makes so much sense. I was recently talking to some expert safety directors about technology adoption overall and with safety. And they said the exact same thing. They can give a new bell and whistle to someone that's a field worker. And one of them said in 10 seconds, they'll know whether it's something that is doable and that they're going to gravitate to or not. That really underscores what you're saying about it. Got to make sense in the field.
I've seen examples of that where you give them this iPad, you want them filling out forms, and all you do is when you go out to a job site, you see a bunch of guys and gals standing around looking at iPads, not being aware of their surroundings, not paying attention. Look, safety was top of mind long before we had iPads, right? So you just got to get down to what does it mean? And it really means getting more people involved to watch out for each other. Hey, don't step there. Hey, I'm going to put some tape up over here. Hey, announcing to the crew, hey, I'm working over here. It's really not that difficult if you make it part of a culture. That's really unique.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And when you said that, I thought, yeah, how ironic if everybody were standing around on the job, a dangerous job site, which they all inherently are, standing there looking at iPads would be a great way to be distracted and not think.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, that's really well said. I like that you create that environment from the beginning about it's not punitive. Don't be intimidated to speak up if there's a coworker or colleague or tradesperson that, that something's going on that you are concerned about them being safe, whether it's physical or mental health related.
Yeah, if you think about what you're looking to improve every day. And if you make it punitive, you're really trying to get the near misses out there. Where did something almost happen? Yes, I've seen guys drop a wrench from 2 stories up and hit nothing and they think no harm, no foul. But you want to report that as a near miss so you can learn from it. Maybe we need to tether the tools. Maybe we need to do something different. But if we make it punitive and that person feels like dropping that tool is going to get him fired or reprimanded in some way, you're never going to get to all the different things that you can focus on to fix. So we actually value near miss reporting. We look for it and we want to get thousands of near miss reports because from those we can get better. So a punitive environment will now allow you to benefit from the collective learning of the organization. And that's what we try to enforce.
Wow. That's really inspiring in a very practical way, in a very people centric way. I have to mention to our viewers and listeners about some of your safety statistics because I know companies always like to brag about them, and a lot of times they're good, but yours are crazy awesome. And I would love for you to talk about maybe explain what a TRIR is first, what that stands for, and what that how that's figured so that people
Yeah.
appreciate your number. I mean,
Yeah.
not technical, but just what's a
Yeah.
recorded incident rate and what does it
Well, we look at it as one, we don't really track our numbers to brag about them. We think about it in terms of the output of the program. It's the scoreboard, right? And if things are working, the score looks good. Things aren't, then we'll go track it. When we started on this path, our TRIR was about north of 3.5. Pretty bad, but some people told me that's just the industry. And we just refuse to accept that. And what that means basically in layman's terms is if you have a 3.5 TRIR, you're basically hurting 3.5 to 4 people a month. And
Oh,
we just thought that was unacceptable. One is too many. And so now we're very low, but well below one, if not the lowest in the industry. And so we feel like we're putting our best foot forward and no one gets hurt. So that's really what it meant to us. And we really focused on trying just to improve there. Again, the TRIR, all those different numbers, those are reports, but for us, it's the scoreboard of how we get better. And it's all the things that I just mentioned earlier about culture and getting to the ground of the people and talking to them and really that drive and educating them on what it means to stay safe and how the company benefits. Workman's comp insurance goes down. People don't get injured. There's a stat out there that says for every recordable, it costs your company at least $50,000.
wow.
If you just think about all your recordables and how you could save maybe 50, 100, maybe $400,000 a year, safety makes money. And so we also looked at trying to educate people that there's that aspect to look at as well. And so we started rewarding companies and people for being safe because they were cost avoidance on the things that we had to eat at the corporate level.
Wow. And for anyone who's not familiar with construction who may be listening, what would be an example of a fairly minor recordable, just as an example?
I have seen bee stings turn into recordables. I have seen splinters from handling wood without gloves turn into recordables. Yeah, it's a very fine line. Let's say an individual has a recordable, gets something in their eye, hurts their back, something like that. You're talking about doctor visit after doctor visit. You're talking about lost revenue, lost time on the job. Those things all add up, and you want nothing to be super serious. But even a minor recordable, when you start thinking about lost revenue and all those other aspects, can start to tally up some money. But yeah, I had a job one time where one guy who was allergic to bees, that's the one the bee stung. I've seen splinters from handling wood that are an inch long embedded in people's arms. We had to take them to the hospital to get it taken out and get stitches. So the line between a recordable and non-recordable is not so clear sometimes, but recordable is what hurts your numbers. So you really want to go back to that near miss where you really want to learn from that so you can avoid recordable. And that'll drive your workman's comp cost up and all your overall insurance. And look, at the end of the day, if you're a construction business or any service-based business, People want to work at safe companies. So if you want to retain people and recruit the best talent, lead with safety. They want to know that they're valued and that they work at a safe place.
Amen to that. I talked to, it was a different issue, our finding keeping great talent issue a couple months ago, but I talked to a trades worker and he relayed a story to me about how he left one job to go work for another contractor across town because it paid a lot better. And within 60 days, he went back to his old employer that paid less because he was not comfortable and
Right.
was worried about the level of safety. So that really showed me for all levels of the organization how important it is if safety is part of your culture or if it's just talk and not walk.
Well, I think companies can have a good safety culture. You probably can look beyond that. And there's a lot of other things they do that are more people centric. Because again, there's not a safety culture and a company culture. It should just be one thing. We've adopted that philosophy, something I think it's been ironic for us over the last year or two. We adopted pet insurance as part of our health benefits package. And it's pretty minimal cost. It's offset by the company. But that sent a really powerful message all the way down to the field level that people would tell us, my pets are like my kids. It's great that I work for a company that offers that to them. And you really think about us. So I don't think you can just say safety is about being safe. Safety is about culture, compensation, your benefits package. If a company is just working off comp and paying more, that's a zero sum game. You can't outpace the market. Eventually the market will catch up or you will have to bring it down because you're too expensive or you're making less margin. We've decided to play the total package game. Come here, use our tools to be safe, be in the right culture, be well compensated, good benefits. We include your family in it, and we think holistically about the value of what we offer. And all we ask is for you to be safe. Just come to work and be safe. That's all we're asking you to do. And I think that pretty simple rule that most adults will follow.
Exactly. Exactly. And I was going to ask you if you want to share any examples about how you keep, I guess, of how safety is woven into the culture and I'm looking for a word other than fun, but I wondered if you have any kind of employee centric stuff that is almost competitive or I guess team building would be a better adjective. Maybe unites your whole team, the office with the field, or just different field people that gets people on a regular basis kind of learning about safety.
When you get to the size of Crete, a rather large company at this point, first thing you have to do is invest in a leader for safety. And Dwight Abshire leads our safety program, and there's none finer in the country, in my opinion. And from there, you get to drive these behaviors and these reinforcing activities that you want. When it becomes safety as someone's second or third job, you really send a message. That's how you see safety in the organization as a secondary task. So we really made the investment, not only with Dwight, but other regional safety managers and things like that. So from there, we can do simple things. Look, you don't have to invest and everyone gets new watches and new this and that. Ball caps for the projects to say pizza or lunch party. We try to hand out what we call MVP awards quarterly to people. And they can be at dollars here and there. But I think your best play when it comes to safety is being consistent in your actions, consistency in your message. What you don't want to do is get into a position where you're rewarding something for a quarter and then you never do it again. That's just people see through that. You're just trying to buy their attention. We try to be very consistent over time with how we recognize behavior that we like. And we try to correct the behavior we don't like in private and not making it, there's no need to shoot hostages out in front of people. We try to make it let's coach them up. Let's get them right. Now, that's not to say we don't hold people accountable. We actually have non-negotiables that we say you have to follow these, but it's all tied into training. These are life critical issues that we say you can't operate a lift without the right training, things like that. But people know the rules before they go in. And I think what we've learned is most people wake up in the morning wanting to do a good job. And if you help them understand what that job is and what good looks like, most will go do it the right way. And if those that don't, you'll correct it and do the right thing. But we try to treat people like adults and treat them with respect and say, look, this makes you safe and it makes us safe.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tell us, and maybe you should have asked us at the beginning, give us a sense of the size of Crete United maybe in total number of field people? I know that may vary depending on the job. And also, just you mentioned about regional safety directors too. What geographic territory are you all across the United States?
Yeah, so Crete is only about 4.5 years old. We went from a startup to north of $1 billion in revenue in just 4 years, about 4,000 employees and growing. We cover nationwide, but I would say primarily we have 55 locations starting on the East Coast, and we go out in physical locations out to Denver and all points in between. And then as we continue to grow as a company, again, very young company still, we'll push ourselves westward into California, Seattle, Arizona, such. But yeah, north of $1 billion in revenue in just 4 years. They call that a unicorn because it's privately owned and moved that fast. But it's really, I would say, first and foremost, we hire good people. We partner with good companies that we acquire through acquisitions. And one of the things that we really look at when we go to maybe acquire a company or partner with a company, first thing we look at is their safety performance. How, because that tells us what we're looking at from a culture standpoint. And so we bring people in that we can adopt to a uniform standard safety program. So we don't have 50 different safety programs. We have one and we work off of that. So you don't have people running different playbooks here and there. They're all working off the same sheet. And then again, we've staffed it with regional directors and a leader of safety at the organization. And that's helping us drive that culture.
That's awesome. Would you want to share any examples of like high profile projects that you guys have done, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, contracting for, or just doesn't have to be by name, but just to give people an idea of this sort of scope?
Yeah, the scope of what Crete does is really broad. We can be your day-to-day service and repair for, we don't do residential work. We do all commercial and industrial. So we could be in office buildings, doing things like that. We're in industrial plants all over the country, doing kind of that more complicated industrial chiller and different unitary and applied mostly is what we do. And then you could see us do large capital projects, generally 50, maybe 30 to $50 million and below. But again, we could have technicians out rolling around. I think we have over 2,500 trucks on the road every single day out servicing customers. So again, it's really broad. It could be in semiconductor plants down to higher ed, down to elementary schools, down to office buildings. It just ranges from all over.
Wow, that's great. And when you talked about acquiring other companies and that amazing growth in less than 5 years, I thought about again, safety should be a part of the culture, definitely. But what a smart business decision on the back end of things. If you're getting ready to sell a company, that is a factor. Then, of course, it would be, but just that is looked at when you consider acquiring another company.
It is a big factor. Obviously, you're doing your due diligence on financials and things like that. But again, like I led off, we don't believe that there's two cultures. There's just one. And how you do one thing, how you do everything. So if someone says, I've got this great business, but I got a really high safety metric, we probably need to go investigate a little more. So that's why we do it that way. And more often than not, the people we've partnered with and the companies we brought onto the Crete platform, they have those great safety mindset, but they also want to learn and want to be better. So there's almost no resistance. They just want to, how can we improve our safety? Because every one of them cares about their people. So that's the really linkage between safety and culture is, are you people centric and do you really care about the people and all the partners that have come onto the Crete business, good people that care about the safety of their people? We're just accelerating and enhancing that.
Clearly, you're doing something right with that growth. That is an amazing, as you said, that is a unicorn
Yeah.
because that's an amazing amount of growth. And it shows that what you're doing it with a culture is successful, or you wouldn't be
Mhm.
where you are today.
It's something I learned a long time ago. I came from the oil and gas industry and you have to invest in safety every day. You have to invest in culture every day because there will be dark clouds that form over your business, over your team. And if you haven't invested heavily in culture, those dark clouds are going to test that character of that team. So you want to be able to weather that. And safety, it's something that you need to be on top of and invested in daily. And you'll get the return of just having safe people.
That's fantastic. We have been talking today on Build America with Mike Cox, who is the CEO of Crete United. that is an energy efficiency powerhouse. I love that description. That shares in house mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and way more expertise to just improve the communities that it serves. And Mike Cox, has been such a privilege to learn from you today about culture. And I'm so glad you joined us, and I hope you'll come back.
Anytime. It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet.